A hearty welcome to everyone from us here at the Classical Arts Society of Houston as we start our fall festival today. My name is Nalini Sadagopan, President of the organization, and with me is Prabha Bala, one of the founders and past president of our organization. Before we welcome our artist for the day, Sikil Gurucharan, for his lecture demonstration, we will take the next 5 minutes to talk about our organization and what's in store for the Fall Festival on the virtual media this year. Prabha, over to you.
Thank you, Nalini. Here is a 2-minute snapshot of the Classical Arts Society of Houston. The organization was established as a non-profit arts organization in 1993. The late Srimati Indu Krishnamurthy, Srimati Nalini Mukhopadhyay, and I, Prabha Bala, are the registered founders. The organization conducts 3 main events in the year: the annual Houston Tyagaraja Aradhana at the famous Meenakshi Temple with Unchavriti, Pancharatna, etc., as a continuing tradition since the 70s. Secondly, the Spring Music Festival, which in recent years is themed and curated by an invited leading artist as its artistic director. Ravi Kiran was the first. Many other luminaries have followed as artistic directors and have made each of our festival unique by infusing their stamp and style to it. This is a trend-setting initiative of ours that we are very proud of. The third event is the Fall Music Festival with a focus on the youth. The festival not only encourages youth performances, but also gives them a chance to develop leadership and organizational skills, and in fact, run the festival. Hence, today's event with the youthful Sikil Gurucharan is a fitting start. We also present other individual classical dance and music concerts. This year, the Classical Arts Board is fortunate to have transitioned many board responsibilities onto our new young tech savvy board members. I'm especially happy to pass on the baton I have held for many years to Nalini Sadagopan, the new president of the Classical Arts Society of Houston. Classical Arts is now ready to go forth into the new digital world of Facebook, YouTube, and virtual platforms galore. Now, before we revert to Nalini, I would like to thank all of you viewers for welcoming us into your homes. Thank you, and over to you, Nalini.
Thank you, Prabha. Beginning of this year, 2020, we had a complete set of festivities planned. However, due to the COVID pandemic, we had to pause before we pivoted to our current virtual presentation strategy. So here we are to kick off the virtual fall festival featuring many of the artists we had originally lined up. Thanks are due to our incredible board members who worked hard on bringing us this far. All of you here are already familiar with the Facebook page. Thanks for being here live with us today. Today we are proud, very proud, to announce our newly designed webpage. Please visit us at www.classicalartshouston.org to learn more about us and to join our email subscription. In addition, we have a YouTube channel where we will be sharing the videos from our festivals. This year's Fall Festival begins today, September 26th, with the lecture demonstration by the stellar Sikil Gurucharan. October 1st to 16th is our Houston Yuvakala Utsav, a festival featuring young, talented artists from Texas and across North America. The Yuvakala Utsav will befittingly conclude with a grand finale by Ramakrishnan Murthy on October 16th. On November 15th, Guru Charan returns with his team to enthrall us for a full length concert. All of the September, October, and November events are underwritten by our patrons and will be brought to you for free on Facebook. We kick off a pre-Margari concert on December 4th by the renowned duo Ranjani and Gayatri. Today's artist Sikil Gurucharan will be presenting a lecture demonstration on unraveling a Carnatic music concept for about an hour. We kick off with this event with the goal of educating music audience, and education is one of our key objectives. I'll be back to moderate questions towards the end of the program, perhaps the last 10 minutes. So please feel free to send in your questions for Gurucharan via the Facebook comment section. I repeat, please feel free to send in your questions on the topic that he's discussing today via the Facebook comment section, and we will get to as many as we possibly can. Now let's welcome Gurucharan onto the screen.
Namaste, everyone.
I will present a brief bio of the artist before I turn the screen over to him. Sikkil Gurucharan, it's a pleasure to have you. He's a leading musician and a youth ambassador for Carnatic music, a prime time artist during the Chennai music season, and a recipient of numerous awards, including the prestigious Ustad Bismillah Khan Yuva Puraskar Award and Tchaikovsky Award for the Best Musician of the Year, among many. Gurucharan has not only made a mark in the traditional concert Paddhati, but also worked to broaden audience appeal by creating collaborative projects with the world-renowned musicians while retaining the spirit of the art form. In 2015, he received a Nehru Fulbright Excellence Award and was in residence at the University of California, Davis from January to April of that year. Miles from India, a collaborative effort, was nominated for the Best Contemporary Jazz Album at the 51st Grammy Awards. The magazine India Today featured him among 35 game changers under the age of 35 in India. Now let's please welcome Sikkil Gurucharan onto the main screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nalini and Mrs. Prabha, for introducing me to this audience. Yes, we all are in a new normal world right now. It will take some time to adapt, but I'm really happy to note the way Carnatic music and musicians, and especially the Rasikas, are adapting to this new world of digital concerts, digital workshops, and lessons. So I think things are looking better than before when the pandemic had just started. So it's a good sign, I guess. Before I begin today's workshop lecture demonstration, with your permission, I would like to observe 30 seconds of silence as a tribute to one of the most prolific singers and one of the most extraordinary gentlemen we have ever met in our lives, Shri S.P. Balasubramanian. So let's observe just 30 seconds silence as a tribute to that wonderful soul. Thank you. Although Sri SPB was more into the film side, I think his connection with the live concert experience is something that is important in what we are going to talk about today. As much as we know SPB as a legendary playback singer, almost throughout his life, he was a live concert performer, live stage performer. And those aspects are something that we as Carnatic musicians will do well to adapt and to observe. So that's the reason I wanted to pay my respects to this wonderful musician. And also, while we are on the topic of Sri SPB, I also thought I would share some wonderful pointers or advice that he has given to all musicians, all learners of music. Everyone's social media handles are now flooded with the flowery tributes to the legendary singer and how each person got a chance to meet him and all these things. But some forwards, like the one I'm going to share with you now, are really noteworthy and really worth pondering over. So this is a forward that I got from one of my close friends, where SPB gives guidelines to students, to anyone. So I'm just going to read some of those guidelines and try to explain how what he has said is so relevant to what we do in live concerts today. he says, don't practice full songs, practice bits and pieces till you perfect it. Keep looping the bits and keep on listening to it. Well, I don't know if I can ask you to not practice full songs, but let me adapt this advice by saying that in live concerts, even before live concerts, people ask most of us, and how is it that you guys practice together, and how is it that you get prepared for a 3 hour or a 4 hour concert? This is pretty much what we do, and especially myself. And I do not sit and practice the entire song list the day of the concert or the day before the concert. It's just going to be bits and pieces that I think I may fumble, or pieces that I think I'm really strong at and needs more honing and needs more expertise in those areas. So I just keep practicing, and looping is an extraordinary exercise that we can do as students and as performers. Even if it's as basic a sangadi that you do in Kamboji, maybe something like and keep looping that sangadi continuously. And these looping exercises in Carnatic music, it's a wonderful way to get prepared for a live concert, as at least to me as an artist. And SPB, the other one sir has said is that never give up an opportunity to talk to top singers, to talk to senior musicians. Use them, always you see them, ask and learn from them. This is something that all of us as students, and even I think Rasikas need to do. When you find a senior musician, you should use that opportunity to go and learn either from their concerts, their live concerts, or from them, if you know them personally, go and spend time with them. Because for me, I've had the good fortune of interacting with so many legendary percussionists, legendary instrumentalists, legendary singers, that each one has given me advice that I really can't value. It's invaluable advice that I've got from them, and I probably wouldn't have incorporated that immediately in the next concert, but over the time I've realized how much those advices have had a cumulative effect on my singing, right from planning the pace of my concert till choosing the items with which I end the concert. So all these little bits and pieces of advice I've got from senior musicians. So I'm really glad SPB sir also saw the value in interacting with top singers and top musicians. And he says, do not try to change your voice for different songs. That's something that we also need to kind of observe, because when we listen to a favorite singer or a favorite instrumentalist, we tend to adopt this proverb of, imitation is the best form of flattery. We try to sing the sangadis just like them because we are so enamored by that sangadi. What happens is that, to just quote one of my very senior friends in the industry who was an aficionado, he's no more. He said that, Sikil, if you keep on singing like this person, remember that at the end of every concert of yours, you are actually giving the name to that singer and not to yourself. But people will always say that, oh, you sang just like that singer. And that is not a compliment to you. So you have to start developing your own style of singing these sangadis. So that's something that we can actually take from Sri SPB's advice. And he also says, use technology limitedly, do it the old way, sit with singers and musicians and discuss music. That's what we do before a live concert. We sit with our team of artists and discuss what we're going to sing. And it's not necessarily running through the entire list of songs. We just say that, hey, I have this idea of singing a rare Tyagaraja Kriti or a rare Tamil Kriti from pre-Trinity era. And they would say that, wow, I've heard this Kriti sometime earlier by this particular musician. And this particular musician had done Neraval in this particular line. And that gives me an idea. It's kind of, immediately a spark goes off in my brain and says that, oh, wow, I should do Neraval in this line. So discussing relevant things with musicians and your team of artists is always a big thing towards going into a concert. And finally, he says, try practicing singing songs of languages that is unfamiliar or uncomfortable to you. It helps you to find new dimensions to your singing. So that is one of the things I would like to talk about when we unravel a live concert. How much to take from unknown sources and how much to take from known sources. So a concert needs to have both. Especially in today's world, people do really crave known songs and unknown songs. They need to have a balance of both. In fact, balance is what I'm going to be talking about for the rest of the session, how to achieve that balance. And the last advice that I've got from this message is, art is bigger than any artist. Small fights are common among artists, but don't make it so big that eventually art suffers because of you. Walk across to the other artists and clear the misunderstanding. So this is something that all artists need to take to their heart, because a concert stage, especially a live concert, it should not turn into a battlefield. It should not turn into a place where you are trying to show one-upmanship among your team members. That's the reason we go with team members that are most cordial to us, not only as musicians but also as friends. But even otherwise, even if we are not aware of who the team of musicians are going to be, it's always better to arrive at a common ground, arrive at a common area of sharing knowledge in the concert, where everyone is comfortable pitching in with their own ideas. So I would like to again reiterate that Sri SPB's words are really, really valuable to the current scenario that we are in as live concert artists, and really, really thank the wonderful singer for the pieces of advice that he has shared. So unraveling a live concert the Carnatic way. This is going to be the topic that I'm going to be speaking about. Let me start with a very funny incident that happened about 5 to 6 years back, which actually set me thinking whether or not to educate audience or educate myself to a newer audience when it comes to passing on the information that happens behind a concert. So many a time we find that audiences are either blown away by a live concert or they are put off by a live concert. So they either love a live concert or they say that, no, I would rather hear this on a CD or nowadays on YouTube, and I would rather have the same artist repeat the song according to my own will, with all the rewind button and the scrolling and everything. So this incident happened in 2016, if I'm not wrong. What I do is I kind of I do a voluntary thing of enrolling myself as a SPICMACAY artist. So SPICMACAY, as you know, is a world-renowned organization that aims at promoting classical music to the children and youth of the entire world. They hold concerts and lecture demonstrations in schools in different parts of India and the world. So each year, I look forward to visiting a very remote place in India where probably they wouldn't have heard of Carnatic music at all. It's a challenge that I take upon myself, and I really enjoy taking upon such challenges, because the common language is music, and if the audience is aware of that language, it becomes easy for me to communicate. But what if they don't speak that language of music? So then you need to revisit your entire strategy and come up with a new one to engage with such people. So this concert, I think it happened in somewhere in Uttarakhand, in a school, where the boy in the second row started laughing in this concert. So when I was singing, I think around the second song, I remember it was a song in Hamsadhwani, and I had gone on to singing Kalpanaswaras. And this guy was really happy. And I'm used to watching people smile in concerts. So because when they smile, we get more enthusiasm to perform better. But this guy was laughing, and I didn't know what to do. For a moment, I got irritated with that boy, and I wanted to call him up like principals and teachers do in classroom. But I was really curious as to know what was triggering his laughter. And I stopped and after the song, and I asked him to get up and please share what he finds so laughable or so enjoyable in this concert. He was initially he was quite jittery for the moment because I had called his bluff or whatever. But then he immediately said that it was my hand gestures, the hand movements that I made, and the kind of dialogue without words that I was having with my violin and my mridangam artist. So that is something that he found really funny, to say the least. Then I realized that, and he also made a point that, sir, when you're singing in a language, you don't seem to move your hands that much. But when you're singing in this weird language of tada-ri, or when you're going these gaga, riri, sasa, sarigama, and all these, when you're using these syllables, your hands just start wildly swinging left and right. So I really didn't have an answer to him at that juncture, but after the concert, things started falling into perspective. And I realized that artists tend to use these hand gestures a lot when they're improvising, because a live concert is, I would say, it's 75% improvisation and 25% kalpita, or 25% which is learnt in a classroom. But the rest of the 75% is improvising, is singing on the spot and thinking, on your toes. You have to be ready for anything that a live concert offers to you. So the manodharma part of a live concert is something that needs a lot of unraveling, I think, especially for audiences who do not have any introduction to Carnatic music before. So unraveling the live concert experience, and what are the steps I have taken as an artist to ensure a memorable experience for myself and my team, and also hopefully a memorable experience for the audience, because we can never fathom the satisfaction levels of the audience. So most of the concerts, I would have thought that I did a great job, and I would be happy with the concert, but Pat comes a reply from an audience member that I usually know. He says that, no, I've heard better versions of this song from you. And there's always a gap between what you think about a concert and what the audience feels about the concert. So you can always hope that they like a concert. So it's at the end of the day, what they think also matters a lot. They should be in the same wavelength as you as an artist, as a live concert artist. So each concert, and from now on, I'm going to speak only from my experience. I'm not going to generalize. It's just me talking as Sikil Gurucharan. Each concert that I plan is done with the audience in mind. Who is the target audience that I'm going to be performing for? What kind of listeners are there in the auditorium? And for example, in Chennai, there are different sabhas that cater to different audiences. We know that when we are getting into a music academy or a Mylapore Fine Arts or an Ardhagan Sabha, we know the kind of audience that are going to be watching and listening to us. And even in the same sabha, in December, it's going to be a different set of audience. In the months of say June, July, where it is a third-party sponsored event, that's going to be a different set of audience. So, what kind of audience we have, it makes a lot of difference to the planning that we do before a concert. Moving away from Chennai, whether we go to maybe interior Kerala, some of the temples in Kerala. I've had I'm sure most of the musicians visiting Kerala temples in interior villages, they have had the wildest of experiences with audiences. We come across audiences who are actually inebriated during the night, because concerts start around 10:30 in the night and go on till 2:30 or 3 in the morning. And there are like waves and waves of people sitting on the floor and listening to the concert, and they would not let you go unless you kind of give them your best. And there are people who just shout in ecstasy when they listen to a favorite number of theirs, and they just applaud without any inhibition when they listen to a very engaging swara kalpana or a raga sangati or a phrase in the upper gandhara or madhyama. And whenever a favorite raga of theirs, you start elaborating on a favorite raga, the moment they find a raga, they just shout out with joy. So that's the kind of audience we find in interior Kerala. Then you move to Mumbai and Maharashtra and other parts of Maharashtra, maybe Goa, the audience is totally different. So each audience is different whenever we sing. So a live concert is definitely not one size fits all approach. So we cannot take that approach in a live concert. And that's what makes every concert special to me, and I'm sure special to all musicians. The uncertainty in planning and outcome of a concert is what makes our lives so dynamic and so exciting as a live performer. Carnatic music itself is what I call what you see is not what you get kind of a scenario. In computing, you have this what you see is what you get, but in Carnatic music, it's the opposite. What you see on paper is almost never what you see on stage. The way we would have learned a song in the classroom, it undergoes subtle moderation, subtle changes the more we sing. And in a concert, we get inspired to do a little bit of manodharma here and there, and it changes shape in a very positive way. And even especially when you're singing raga, naraval, swaram, vrittam, tanam, pallavi, you would have practiced umpteen number of times a phrase at home. But on stage, there's always a plus or minus 20%, I would say. You can actually outdo yourself while singing on stage, because something gives us the energy to kind of push our boundaries on stage. We get that extra zing to go one up than whatever we practiced at home. And sometimes it fails. And that's something that I also wanted to mention, that it's okay to fail. I learned that the hard way. It's okay to fail in a concert, because as they say in many advertisements, dar ke aage jeet hai. The moment you fail, fear strikes, and you either choose to fight or flight. You take flight. First it was fear. I was just stricken by fear that I couldn't move once I committed a mistake. But then with more maturity, with more experience, and with observing artists, like SPB sir said, observing artists all around me, and especially the senior artists, how they manage in a live concert, how they kind of work around a mistake, that gave me a lot of confidence. And it gave me a kind of hope and assurance that it's okay to make a mistake, but what matters most is how you come out of that mistake and you land successfully in the end. I think Madhura Mani Iyer or Kacheri'la, I heard him for the first time in a cassette, a Giri Trading company or a cassette la Chakkani Raja padirpar. அப்பதான் அந்த மதுரை மணி ஐயரோட பாணி அப்பதான் எனக்கு புரியுது. The way he uses the syllables, he had a very peculiar and a unique style of singing raga alapanas, and it's a very unique intonation that he does during raga alapanas. But the Shruti Suddham kind of fascinated me, and I'm still aspiring to achieve that kind of a Shruti Suddham. And on the cassette, it's there on YouTube, I'm sure. Karagarapri Alapanila, when he goes on to the upper octave, Madhyamatla Nipar, la 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 la, na ra na 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 la na 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 na, and the Panchama Porambo, the first two times the voice will break. And I remember in my teenage years, when the voice was just breaking, I used to almost get devastated whenever that happened on stage. When voice breaks on stage, it's like a shame that you can never come out. That's what I thought. But then I was still there. Voice was not completely okay when during the time when I was listening to the cassette. But here was a legendary singer who lost his voice in the Panchamam. And what did he do? He didn't go back. He just went on with it. He was pushing himself to do that again. And he started using these little phrases to help him get to the Panchamam. La la na 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 na. Kadasila at the Panchamatla, once he opens his voice on the Panchamam, that's it. People applauded. People applauded. So that gave me assurance that people will definitely appreciate if you come out victorious after committing a mistake, because mistakes happen, especially in art, in the field of arts and live performance. I think mistakes add a lot of value, and you learn on the go. It's like on the job training, Murray. You learn on the go when you make mistakes, and how to emerge as a better musician from that mistake. So I would like to take you through the fact that what you plan almost never is what you end up singing. Let it be a korvai, let it be the song list that you had at home, let it be the pakavadyam that going to sit with you as a team, the sound system, the audience receptivity, everything is based on the principles of uncertainty. It is that uncertainty principle that principle which teaches me to never rest easy, never rest. And I've realized that the horizon keeps moving farther and farther as I get closer and closer to it. That is the beauty of live concert performances, I would say. Let's analyze the modern day concert format and try to fit in what we think about the concert format and what artists do when they go on live, go on stage for a live performance. All of us must acknowledge the fact that what is today was not yesterday and will not be tomorrow. It's constantly changing. The concert format is constantly changing. If you realized, the concert format that we are uh, practicing in September 2020 was not even what was prevalent in February 2020. Even in this gap of 7 months, the concert format has changed thanks to this epidemic that is kind of wrecking our lives now. So how Carnatic music managed to tide over this pandemic situation, and people started going onto Facebook, going onto Instagram, YouTube, and Zoom sessions, Zoom concerts. So the concert duration came down to 1.5 hours, 1 hour. And initially in April and May, the audience, they were so starved for music that they were happy to even listen to their favorite artist for half an hour on Facebook Live. So that was happening in the months of April and May. So I would say that all this is a positive thing that is that we need to acknowledge, that Carnatic music is constantly evolving, and that evolution or the change in format or tradition is something that we cannot deny. And if a format works today, it's because the audience has accepted it, and mainly because we as an artist, or myself as an artist, I believed in the format with full conviction. I didn't have any doubts about whether this will work or not. I wanted to try, because we have to trigger that change in an audience when it comes to a concert format. Earlier, when I heard of concerts during the 18th and 19th century, what I've read in books and what my grandmothers have narrated is that in the courts of kings and royal people, they used to invite composers and musicians to perform, and all those performances would be more manodharma based, and songs would be fewer in number. And there would be a lot of time given for a raga, for an alapana, for neraval, for tanam, and then a percussion solo. And they used to have a plethora of instruments accompanying the main singer, and each one would be having their own space to improvise the raga, to give out their expressions of the raga. So a concert naturally would be no less than 5 to 6 hours, and then there would be competitions among artists from this village, from that kingdom, and it used to be a very healthy duel. But then with the advent of temple concerts, the format still remained the same, but then the competition part of the concert format, it kind of disappeared. People were singing all night long in temples, and then the Nagasuram artists would take over, and there used to be 2 or 3 Taniyavartanam sometimes in these concerts. But then things changed again. The sabhas, when the sabha culture started happening, sabhas started accommodating multiple artists and multiple concerts in a day, and the audience were asking for a variety in the kind of songs that they were presenting and kind of artists that were being sung, that were performing. So you had a trailblazer like Sri Aryakodi Ramanuja Iyengar entering the stage and deciding that he's going to break the format by introducing more number of songs in a concert, having manodharma in a very proportional level, and not having raga alapana for every song, mixing a concert structure by having more by having songs and manodharma in equal measure. And that concert format was such a hit that we still follow it today. Well, most of us still do. And then you had people like Brinda Mukta introducing padams and javalis in their concerts, which didn't happen much before them. And then you had MS Subbulakshmi, who brought in her own style of giving hardcore Carnatic music rasikas something to enjoy, as well as devotional people, and bringing in Meera bhajans and rare songs of Kalki Krishnamurti and other new composers. And you had people like DKP Amma, DKJ, and all these people bringing in Subramania Bharatiyar songs, Tamil songs. So you get the idea. So each one brought in their own innovation into the Carnatic music Carnatic music world, and the audience loved it. They kind of lapped all these changes, and there you had a golden era of Carnatic music during the 1950s till the 80s and 90s. And then again, the concert structure changed. You had more slots, more musicians coming up the ladder, and the concert duration further reduced. And today you have a concert, maybe during December season, it would go to a maximum of 2.5 hours. And how do you plan that live concert? How do you make that concert a success? It is all about balance. And that is the kind of balance that I strive to achieve, not only in the music, on the music stage, but also in my daily life, because I'm a huge fan of Kaniyan Pungunrunar, the Sangakala poet, who who has written this famous song Yadu Mure Yavarum Kelir, where he talks only about balance. He says, Vardal inidena magirndandrum ilame, Munivin inna dendralum ilame. It basically means that when my life is going so well, everything is going my way, I'm not happy. But at the same time, I don't get bogged down when things don't go my way. Even if I'm facing adversities, I don't get bogged down. So that balance is necessary. And he says that our life is nothing but a log of wood floating in the river. So wherever the river takes us, river meaning fate, wherever it takes us, our life just goes. So maintain that balance forever. That's what he says. And that's the kind of balance that we have to incorporate on the concert stage as well, in a live concert. And at the end of the day, I think the music should be uncompromising. The adherence to melody and rhythm, Shruti and Layam, that has to be kind of unflinching, the adherence. And if you have these things intact, any innovation will see the light of the day. So you don't have to worry about whether you're having a worry about whether what you're doing is right or wrong. So any honest attempt and a sincere preparation for that attempt will never go unnoticed or unrewarded in this field of music, is my observation. So talking about balance, Inga number balance is strike pananam. So for me, what my grandmothers have taught, what my gurus have taught is they didn't explicitly mention that balance paniya on a concept, but I kind of gathered that along the years. What they are talking about is ultimately about balance between speeds. ஒரு கான்சர்ட் ஆரம்பிச்ச உடனே ஒரே வேகத்துல இருக்கக்கூடாது. Every song there should be a variety in speed. அதனாலேயே என்னவோ I feel the very first song that you have in a concert, I think post Ariyakudi's format, where you have a varnam. One of the main purposes for a varnam being the first song, I think, is to set the balance in speed. ஏன்னா varnathla mattumda what you do is, apart from the ragam thanam pallavi, of course, you try to play with different speeds. The first song you show the audience of the different speeds that you are capable of. And the simpler the varnam, the more number of speeds that you can traverse. If it's going to be a trickier varnam, maybe if you're going to go to a adatala varnam or a pada varnam where there are words involved, you need to maintain that balance. You can't still go on and say that I'm going to sing in 3 different speeds where the audience kind of feels that the lyrics were not heard because of the fast speed. That should not be the scenario. You have to choose the varnam judiciously, and then you have to balance the speeds properly. For example, take this. I'll take a very simple varnam and give you a demonstration of how to balance speeds within that varnam. Ninnu koriyu nagamuraga, ninnu koriyu nagamuraga. Madhyama kalam padiyachu, mel kalam padiyachu. In between this, you can also include the Tisra kalam. Ninnu koriyu nagamuragani. You can sing the Tisra Madhyama kalam. You can sing Tisra Kir kalam as well. Ninnu koriyu nagamuragani. There is something called Chatusra Tisram that can be done. So we are able to do all these different varieties because the varnam itself is a very popular and a simple varnam. So it can accommodate a lot of variations in it, various speed variations in it. And then you can do all these things, but do you really do all these things on stage? Do you have to do all these things on stage, considering that this is the first song? I would say that's why you have to maintain that balance. I, as a concert artist, would probably go with a Madhyama Kalam to start with, and a male Kalam. If I feel adventurous enough on that particular concert, what I would do is mixing Tisra Kil Kalam and Tisra male Kalam. Probably. It would sound like re yo na nu ra like this. And then when you go to the charanam, it will all mostly the concerts ketilnaka, I would sing the charanam in a male kalam. Sannutanga Srinivasa Sannutanga Srinivasa அந்த மாதிரி மேல் காலத்தை பாடிட்டு, this was the format that I was following for many years, and still I do this. But then thanks to my current guru Sri B. Krishnamurthy, he said something that kind of set me thinking on a different dimension. He said, இந்த சாவேரி, அப்போ சாவேரி வரணும் கிளாஸ்ல பாடிட்டு இருக்கும்போது, இந்த சரணம் லைன்ல கொஞ்சம் நிரவல் பாடேன்பா அப்படின்னு. அது வரைக்கும் I had never attempted something like that. Doing நிரவல் on a charanam of a varnam, I have never done something like that. So he immediately asked me to do, I'm just demonstrating that in Mohanam for you. Sannutanga Srinivasa Sannutanga Srinivasa Sannutanga Srinivasa Sannutanga Sri. And that kind of opened a new world to me in how to handle a varnam in a concert. So a live concert, again, it's about balance. I would not do Neraval and Swaram in the Varnam. It would be either Neraval and no Swaram, or just Swaram if I'm feeling feeling like doing Swaram for the Varnam. So you see how different speeds in the Varnam itself kind of prepares the audience for the entire concert. And then in the whole concert, choosing songs of different speeds. If Muthuswami Dikshithar part edutundaka, it will be of a certain tempo. Tyagarajaroda part edutundaka, multiple tempos. You have songs in slower tempo, you have songs in faster tempo, and then you have most of his Veralara Kirtanis or 1, 2, 3 and the Arathali Kirtis, most of them go on a faster speed, and everything is necessary. In fact, I've heard that Samangudi Mama, whenever he used to perform in a party, solinde irpa, அந்த இடத்துல தோய்வு வருது. தோய்வு means there's a lull in the proceedings. People, they don't connect with the concert because they feel it's going in one similar direction. You need to spice things up. You need to play with the speed that a concert has. So difference or balancing the speeds in a concert is one of the balance that we strive to achieve, and balance between different talas. So a concert must not have the same talam. Idu vandu enakku hands-on experience thanks to Padma Bhushan Umayalpuram Sivaraman sir, because the day I started performing with him, I understood the importance of mixing talas in a concert. And ஒரு கான்சர்ட் பாடிட்டே இருக்கும்போது, after the concert when I speak to him, he said, நீங்க ஏன் கச்சேரியில கண்ட சாப்புவே வரலையே அப்படிம்பார். I was like, oh my god, correct தானே, கண்ட சாப்பு பாடவே இல்லை நம்ம. And see, each tala has its own way of breaking the monotony. Adi talam, it's one of the most common talams that we have accepted. Rupagam, Misra Chapu, Kanda Chapu, then you have Misra Jampai, Adi talam, Tisra Gati, and you have multiple talams. You multiple Tisra Triputa, Tisra Nadai, and different talams. So a concert structure eduthu pathina, live concert, it's better if you strike a nice balance between different talams, and a balance between kritis and manodharma. You should know where to go into manodharma and where to stop with just the kritis. எல்லா கிருத்திக்கும் மனோதர்மம் பாடணும் அவசியம் இல்லை, எல்லாமே வெறும் கிருத்தியா பாடணும் அவசியம் இல்லை. So an audience will probably expect both songs as well as manodharma, and then a mixture of unknown and known kritis and unknown and known ragas. Strike a balance between the two. I'll again take you through an example that happened recently in my life. I think a couple of years back, when I was singing in a sabha. It was during the fag end of the December season, I think it was January 1st week. ஒரு சபா ஒரு outskirts of சென்னையில் ஒரு சபால பாடின்னு இருக்கேன். That particular day, I had exhausted all my usual ragas till then. December first week la aarambicha season, around the time we reach January 1st week, I've sung all the ragas that I usually sing in season: Bhairavi, Todi, Kamboji, Karahara Priya, Hemavati, Shankarabharanam, Hari Kamboji, Mukhari, ellame paadiyachu. So that particular day I was feeling up to doing something new. So the two ragas that I chose were Sucharitra and Kokila Priya in a concert. It was a 2-hour concert, so usually I prepare myself with 2 ragas for a 2-hour concert. So Sucharitra is something that goes like this. This was a song by Kotishwar Iyer, who is a master of Vivadi compositions, I would say. This is a song called Velumayilume, Yo Velayilume, Velume, Vetri Velumayilume, Yo Velayilume, Velume, Vetri Velumayilume. And then when I went to the main piece, I was initially planning to sing maybe a Bilahari or a Mohanam, but I thought, why not sing Kokila Priya, a kriti by Tyagaraja, rare kriti, called Dasharate, Dayasharate. And that's what I sang. To give you an idea of how Kokila Priya goes, it's Dasharate, Dayasharate, Dasharate, Dayasharate. இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பாட்டு, 2 கல பாட்டு. I thought the concert went really well, and most of them, they said that we have never heard of these ragas and songs. But prompt came a mail. Actually, I didn't even reach home after the concert. I was in the taxi when I got a mail from a well-wisher saying that, I'm a 70-year-old man. I came to your concert, but I should say that I didn't enjoy the concert because you sang 2 ragas, both ragas I didn't know, and I am satisfied only if I hear a Kamboji, or I hear a Bilahari, or I hear a Shankarabharanam or a Kalyani in a concert. So I request you to consider people like me before planning a concert. And as I said in the initial part of this lecture demonstration, that it's very difficult to balance what you feel about a concert and what others feel about a concert. So I learned a lesson that probably maybe having 2 unknown ragas in a concert might not work for everyone. So I made it a point that probably I'll sing 1 unknown raga and a known raga in a concert. And it also helps if you make if you kind of balance between a known raga by an unknown composer and an unknown raga by a known composer. If you say that this is a song by X and Y in the ragam Kokila Priya, in the ragam Jhala Varali, people are going to get put off. And maybe when you say that this is a song in Kokila Priya by Tyagaraja, they would say that, oh yeah, I know Tyagarajan, and that is a point with which they can relate to. So that has always helped me. And balancing between raga, neraval and swaram. So swaratla paadrumbodhu, how much of kalpana swaram, how much of sarvalavu you need to give, how much of Kanaka you need to use. That is a balance that I need to maintain. I strive to maintain. Some people enjoy singing a lot of Kanaka in Kalpanaswarams, even in Neraval, and some people keep it to a very discreet level. I would say that I'm somewhere in the middle of both, and I do enjoy singing Kanakas, but I feel Sarvalagu is much more difficult than singing Kanaka, at least for me, because once you have a Kanaka in your mind, it kind of sets the way in which you're going to sing. But in Sarvalagu, you never know how it's going to go. So let me give you an example of what is Sarvalagu and what is Kanaka. Sarvalagu would be something like, let me take the ragam Shankarabharanam. Ga ma ga ma ga 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 ma ga ri sa ni sa re ga ma ga 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 ma ba da ma ba ma ga ga re ga ma ba ma ga re re ni re ba ma ga sa sa ni re ma ga re sa sa ni re ba ma ga re sa ni sa re ga ma ma ga da ba ma ma ga ma pa ba ma ga ma pa ba ma ba da ni ba ma ba da ni sa ba ma ni da ba ma ga da ba ma ga ri sa ni re sa ga ri ma ga ba ma da ba ni da ba ma ga ma pa ga ma re ga ma pa. This is an example of Sarvalagu of Swara singing, where there are no there are no Kanaka as such, but you play with a lot of varieties and a lot of patterns. And then and all these things are Sarvalagu. But in Kanaka, it will probably be papa da da ni da da ba ma ga ga mama da ba ma ga re re ga ga pa ma ga ri sa re ga ma da ba ma ga re ga ma pa. That is a very finite way of singing. The carways are finite. You have to maintain that carways. Most of the corways that we sing, or most of the final formations that we do, they're all Kanaka based. They're all finite, and you kind of take them and you land safely in the destination. But in Sarvalagu, it's not the case. That's why I feel Sarvalagu is more challenging to sing, because the ending has to be appropriate enough to go into the Kriti. People like Samangudi Mama, Madhuramani Iyer, DKJ, they were all versatile in singing Sarvalagu Swaras, and how ending that Sarvalagu Swaras with the song is also a masterpiece from them. So you need to have a balance while singing Kalpana Swaras, maintaining the balance between Sarvalagu and Kanaka. Then you have maintaining a balance between the kind of songs that you sing in a concert. I'm just going to open the floor for questions now very soon. How to make concert appealing. This is something that I've heard people talk about. My grandmothers, they've always mentioned that unga party kacherila, the way they choose the songs is something that you must imbibe to. And believe it or not, they were the people formatting my song list till I was about 20 or 21. So every concert I used to go to their house, and I still preserve those handwritten notes. They used to start with the Varnam and end with the Mangalam. நடுவில் என்ன பாடணும், உனக்கு என்ன பாட்டு தெரியும் சொல்லு, ஒவ்வொன்றா சொல்லுன்னு கரெக்டாக அந்த மேளம் பார்த்து they will analyze and list போடுவான். And I remember asking them one of those occasions. I said that என்ன இந்த மாதிரி ஒவ்வொரு கச்சேரிக்கும் முன்னாடி வந்துட்டே இருக்கணும் போல இருக்கே உங்க வீட்டுக்கு. I don't know what I'm going to do maybe tomorrow, next year onwards, and இதே மாதிரி தான் வந்துட்டு இருப்பேன். I said no, one day you will start making, and you won't be coming to me anymore for concert lists. And I said that I don't think that can happen, because I'm totally dependent on your lists now. They said no, you will get an experience of how to formulate a concert list. I don't know what were the rules of formatting a concert list, but then it became clear to me that மேளம் போடுறது it's very important. மேளம் மாத்துறது, இப்போ சாவேரி வர்ணத்துல ஆரம்பிச்சானாக்க அடுத்தது it should not be a ragam that is close to Saveri, because Saveri, the unique nature of Saveri has that Suddha Rishabham. Better you avoid the Shuddha Rishabham and Shuddha Daivatam. Go to a ragam that has Antara Gandharam and Chatushruti Rishabham and a Madhyamam, which is more dominant in other ragas. So I would go to maybe a Kalyani as the next raga after Saveri, then going to a raga like Maya Malavagola, or going to a raga like Bauli or something. Adamari. So I learned this with more experience. So a live concert is where I've learned most of the concert planning. ஒரு பாட்டுக்கு அப்புறம் இது இந்த பாட்டு, depending on the speed, depending on the audience tastes and how the audience are responding to the particular concert, the way the concert is moving, you need to think fast, act fast also. So having a concert list, having a song list for a concert also involves a lot of balance between the swaras, the different swaras you have, balancing between Shuddha Madhyamam, Prati Madhyamam. ஒரே மாதிரி Shuddha Madhyamam ragams full வந்துட்டே இருந்தாக்க, I still remember a critic who used very kind of harsh words to say that the concert was good, but it seemed as if he was unable to sing Pratimadhyama ragas because I didn't find one Pratimadhyama raga in his concert. So that taught me something, that you should have a balance between Shuddha Madhyama and Pratimadhyama ragas in a concert. And this just goes on and on. And the recent findings that I kind of stumbled upon, thanks to my gurus, was how to sing raga alapana with a balance, how to maintain a balance in raga alapana. Because in raga alapana, you're basically free, you're not bound by time. There is no time signature, there is no talam. Layam irukku, but there is no talam. You could just go on and on. But how much is too much? You need to know that while singing raga alapana. And that's something that I learned only through experience. I'm still learning that and unlearning several things in raga alapana. Because in a live concert, if you're singing 3 ragas, say ஒரு ஹிந்தோளம் பாடுறேன், ஒரு சங்கராபரணம் பாடுறேன், and then you're going to a RTP, maybe a RTP in the ragam Shanmugapriya, whatever. All 3 raga alapanas, they have to be as different as possible. They should not have the same pattern. So earlier, I used to give the same treatment for 3 different ragas in my alapanas, and my mother used to scold me after every concert, and she still does. She says that no, you could have given that raga a little less treatment than the other raga. So I realized that balancing raga alapana in between a concert, that's also very important. ஒரு சின்ன ராகம், ஒரு ஹிந்தோளம் எடுத்துனாக்கா அதோட ஸ்கோப், if you take a vivadi ragam, அதோட ஸ்கோப் கொடுத்து ஒரு ராகம் பாடணும். And then you go to raga like சங்கராபரணம், பைரவி, தோடி and கரஹரப்பிரியா, அதோட ஸ்கோப் வச்சுட்டு ஒரு பேலன்ஸ் பண்ணி பாடணும். And in ragam தானம் பல்லவி, it's again a different ball game. You tend to, if you have the time in the concert, you tend to develop ragas in stages. So Shajamlend Pancham Varikam ஒரு stage, then Panchamlend the male Sajam Varikam, you develop in stages. So there should be a subtle difference in elaborating raga alapana in between the songs also, in between the songs in a concert. So more things kind of surface the more we perform, and that's the beauty of Carnatic music, I think. And live concert is the place where you can observe these things as rasikas. You can observe these things from different artists. It can be a senior most artist, it can be a junior artist who's making waves. The way they plan a concert, and the way they accommodate audience requests into the concert if they are open to it, and the way the ragas kind of change structure when they sing, it's all wonderful to observe only in a live concert. So I would urge all of you, and thanks to Classical Arts Society of Houston for organizing this, I would urge all of you to visit as many live concerts as possible. I know in this pandemic it's not possible right now, it's not safe to do so, but the amount of live concert that you have on the web with legitimate sources, that they are quite a lot. And please try to observe these little dialogues that are going on between the artists on stage. They are not open dialogues, they are not dialogues in any language but music. So you need to watch out for these dialogues. So I think I'm ready to take questions if Mrs. Nalini is also ready. Yeah, I can also see some questions over here. Can I just go one by one? You've already sent the questions.
Well, thank you so much, Sri Sikha Gurucharan, for kicking off this festival. There's been a lot of audience engagement. I'm not sure you're able to see, but we are able to see on Facebook. There's been always about at least 100 live participants, and they've been engaged and very discussion oriented. This is what we exactly wanted, to keep it live. So there is that back and forth. So we have had a lot of questions. I think I've sent in some of them to you.
Can I choose, or would you like to ask whichever you want?
Sure. And I think thanks for incorporating some of the questions already in explaining, for example, the swarams and so on and so forth. Yeah. So again, thank you, Sri Sikha Gurucharan. And I think it was a pleasure to listen how you balance and structure a concert, right? I mean, it's not always easy, like most of us, even as audience, realize that. And I think for me, what was very interesting was, when you talk about music, it's an art form, there's a lot of creativity to it. But then that's more of the other side of the brain. And then you talked about creative structure and organization and balance, which is on the other side. So it is definitely bringing the two sides of your brain together and presenting something that is going to be very interesting for the audience. There has been a few questions, so if you don't mind, I could go through them
Sure,
and
sure. Please,
you
please
can
go
address
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
Um, so maybe we can start with the Varnam. I really appreciate how you explained the different speeds and
Yeah.
how you really present that. So the question was, is Varnam a must in concerts in your opinion?
My opinion, it's not a must in a concert. I used to think that Varnams give me a necessary warm up for a concert because it has so many speeds and you can play with the Varnam. That was a misconception I discovered later on. So you can warm up yourself with an equally engaging Tyagaraja Kriti or a Tamil Kriti. And I'm also open to singing Varnams not in the beginning of the concert, because most of the Varnams that we have, especially the Pada Varnams, they're so beautiful. They have so much of Raga Bhava and Sahitya Bhava that you cannot capture everything in the first part of the concert because you are so hasty. You just arrived at the concert stage, you were just listening to it, you're just watching the audience, and things are still, you are trying to get a grasp of things. At that time, if you present that Padavarnam, at least if I present a Padavarnam, I wouldn't be able to do full justice. So I'm okay. I've done Padavarnam singing even as a second or third piece. So Swati Tirunal's Varnam, moonavathu piece agoda paadirukken. Even KV and Mama, they have done that. So thereby bringing the entire beauty of the Varnam. So Varnam singing, it's not a must, I would say, but you just handle Varnam as any other song, but it has a lot more scope for variety in terms of speed variations, nade variations. That's all.
And thank you. And that was a question from Lakshmi Srivats. The other question, now moving into more of kritis, there was a question. Why some kritis are called rare kritis or rare, even ragas, they're called rare ragas. So what do people mean by rare ragas or rare kritis?
It's just simple. It's unknown. I mean, if I say that Tyagarajar on the Kalyanila, he has done so many songs. If I sing Eta Munara, if I sing other songs in Kalyani, Nariya irukku, Nidhijala Sukuma. But suddenly when I bring in a song like Karu Velpulu, that my guru taught a couple of years back, I hadn't heard of that song before. And he said, Karu Velpulu no nalla paattu Kalyani kattuko. And I made it a point to sing in my concerts. But audience, they were like, hey, inna mari oru paata na kelli padadile. But they were able to appreciate it because it was a Tyagaraja Kriti. If I said that this is by some composer who's very new, and if I say this is a song in Kalyani, they would take a little more time in kind of warming up to that particular number. So rare songs are songs that are still unknown. If the composer is known, as I said, it gives them a lot of headway into that song. And if the raga is also known, it gives them a point to connect with. So I would say, and even sometimes the theme also. I was able to find out that the composer was new, the ragas were common, but the theme was extremely new. So the audience kind of, they loved it. I'm talking about a song that I sang a couple of years back in Chennai, which spoke about Sita's complaints against Rama. It was a song that I did in the end of the concert. Tukudan solla mudiyadhu. Towards the end of the concert, Ragamalika, all known ragas. The composer is Mr. Ramaswamy in New Jersey. He wrote, it's a wonderful poem that brings out Sita's point of view, saying that, how dare you leave me? No, how dare you ask me to go through this test of fire? And it's like she's asking Lavakusha and to go and ask these things to their father. So audience, this is a theme that they know, but nobody talks about it that much. It doesn't appear in our songs. So it's a combination of all these things that make a concert engaging, I think.
Sure. So the follow-on to that is, so do you plan a rare composition or kriti or raga in your concert?
Yes, I do plan a rare composition or a rare raga. No, I plan a rare composition, but not much rare raga. Sometimes it just occurs. Like that concert in the outskirts of Chennai, I didn't plan to sing that rare raga. It just struck it was a known song for me, and I just thought maybe I was actually tired of singing Kalyani. The previous day I had sung Kalyani and all these different things, but I had never tried Sucharitra that season, and I thought I will try, and I thought it came out well, except for that man who thought it didn't.
Thank you. So coming to Raga Alapana, how do you, for example, every artist, you associate, at least as a connoisseur of music, இப்போ நீங்க நிறைய கீரவாணி பாடிருக்கீங்க. So for me, கீரவாணினா then I'll associate yourself. Um, but how do you say present the same raga but keep it interesting for the audience every time? So this was a question from Harini Sriram.
Oh, okay. I think the main point is to keep it interesting for me. That's
Okay.
the main barrier that I have to cross, because I found that many concerts singing the same raga, even a rare raga, once it stops being interesting to me, I find it very difficult to move further. After that, it's just a very mundane exercise of getting it done with. But in ragas like Kiravani, that's the reason we call those ragas as time tested and ragas with elaborate scope, because each time we sing, something new comes out of those ragas. இப்போ இன்னைக்கு நான் தோடி பாடுறேனாக்க ஒரு மாதிரி அவுட்புட் இருக்கும். 2 days later, if I sang Todi, maybe the ideas would be different. The structure would be the same. We'll come back to Kirshad. That's the structure that we follow. But in between, where are the zones that we kind of lock ourselves in? Samugudi Mama in Karahara Priya Alapana, he was very famous for his Karahara Priya renditions. In each Nyasa Swara, he would get locked up in a zone, and it would be magical to listen to him, especially in the male Rishavatla Paramboda in his own typical way. La, 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 he just go on and on and on. It's those moments that you wait for as an artist while singing a raga alapana. Kiravani paranaka, if I don't get that inspiration, probably it will be a very neat and a very chamatta Kiravani that you will also applaud, and I wouldn't be happy. So making myself satisfied with the raga alapana, I think if that I ensure that I'm pretty confident that the audience also will enjoy the alapana.
Regarding the main, there's a question from Mayuri Srivat. So she was asking, she's a youngster and in Houston, she was asking, do you always have to choose Gana ragas for your main? Or are there times that you choose the non-Gana ragas? If so, can you give an example or demonstrate?
Yeah, I as I said, I balance the two of them. If I would not, probably I would have done this sometime in my career, but I don't see myself doing it nowadays. Choosing two Ganaragas to elaborate in a concert. Maybe I wouldn't go with one Modala Bhairavi Padite, the next raga Todi and the Mari I probably wouldn't do, because in a 2-hour concert, it's you have to do justice to both ragas, and you can't sing Bhairavi short up ஆடுறது ரொம்ப கஷ்டம், at least for me. So I need to give one raga its complete due. So if I'm choosing Bhairavi, one Ganaraga in a concert, I would go with one pentatonic raga or a raga which is a little less in scope, which can be presented in a fast way. Maybe a Sudha Danyasi or a Mohana Kalyani or a Belhari, where you have songs in Rupa Katalam. So Ganaraga the main piece of Padanuna Pri, there is no rule, but the purpose of having Ganaragas as the centerpiece is that you can kind of explore a lot of new areas in those ragas without getting repetitive. So I've had this conversation with many musicians. Because there are musicians who sing Giripai as the main piece. M.D. Ramanan sir adikadi paduvar. Many musicians sing other ragas. Mohanam irkum, Mohana Rama, Nannu Palimpa, ellame main piece la irkum. So it's not about having only Gana ragas as the main piece. It's about having ragas that have a lot of scope and that you feel confident in in actually bringing out the full scope of the raga without being repetitive. That's more important.
Okay. And coming to the raga piece and the kritis, right? So the question from Ranjana Narasimhan was, do you really have to understand the kriti really emote the saram of that kriti, or is the understanding of the melody or the raga enough?
I would say both, again, a balance of both, because there used to be a time when I didn't have any idea of the kriti that I was singing in, the meaning of the kriti. I was moving purely on the basis of the melody, because I think that melody is the bedrock of Carnatic music. Lyrics can come and go, lyrics can be any language, but the melody has to carry those lyrics in a Carnatic concert. But then I realized that if a song has such moving lyrics as maybe Bharatiyar's Aase Mugam Marandu Poche, the melody has to change in a way as to give those lyrics a little more enhancement or improvement. You can't, I used to render this in a very fast way before, but then when I learned about the true nature of the song, the meaning, and naturally the tempo kind of came down to me. And I don't sing, when I'm asked to sing 1-2 minute song to end the concert, I wouldn't go singing Aase Mugam, because
It
Aase
would be
Mugam
nice
for
to
me,
hear a couple of lines of Aase Mugam.
sure, for now, if I were to sing Aase Mugam, I need to pay respect to the meaning that the song has. And then I see the Jaunpuri moving itself so beautifully with those lyrics. For example, தேனை மறந்திருக்கும் வண்டும் ஒளி சிறப்பை மறந்து விட்ட பூவும் வானை மறந்திருக்கும் பயிரும் இந்த வையம் முழுதும் இல்லை தோழி ஆசை முகம் மறந்து போச்சே ஆசை முகம் மறந்து போச்சே ஆசை முகம் மறந்து போச்சே இதை யாரிடம் சொல்வேனடி தோழி. This is an example of how the lyrics and melody move together. But there are songs, again, the other side of the balance. You have songs like Nana Nunchina or in Malavi that have to be rendered in a particular tempo to bring out the melodic framework. I wouldn't be singing Malavi composition in a very elaborate இழுத்து பாடுற மாதிரி இருக்காது. If for that matter, even கதன குதூகலம் ரகுவம்ச சுதா அது ரொம்ப இழுத்து பாடினா நல்லா இருக்காது. You have to maintain that balance. You have to give importance to the raga swarup also within that lyrics. So you have to understand both, I would say.
So I think I'll maybe go to a couple of questions and then we can wrap. This is more about you. So what is your favorite raga to sing or listen to? This is obviously a fan of yours wanting
it kinds
to
of, I think it's like an F5 button in your computer. It refreshes like crazy. Every 1 hour a different raga comes to my mind. I would listen to some song. It can be a cinema song. It can be a Carnatic song that I hear, and that immediately becomes a kind of a earworm. It goes on, and I sing phrases of that. As PB sir said, looping on the derko. And Keeravani, since you reminded me of that, probably I'll be singing Keeravani for the next 1 hour and until I listen to another ragam. So I don't have a favorite ragam or a favorite song or a favorite composer as such, but it's a matter of how to bring out the best of everything through my limited capacity or my ability. That's what I've strived. Yeah.
One thing, this is going to the next question. Thanks for the answer there. So you are when you're not a seasoned listener, but you just started understanding, the raga, swaram, and thalam, and beats and all that. But sometimes a matured audience is able to pick up on something like the Shruti Bedam or Graha Bedam much more than others in the audience, right? So from an audience perspective, can you touch a little bit on what you are trying to communicate when you're doing a Shruti Bedam or a Graha Bedam as an artist, and how do you hope it to be received by
I think
the
it's
audience?
just communicating our virtuosity, I would say. You need to be, as I said in the early part of this program, you need to believe in something that you do with full conviction, and the audience, they will immediately respond whether they like it or not. So Grahabedam for me, I do it not in every concert, but in certain concerts where I think the audience will be receptive for that. Example, a Western audience, an audience that which listens to a lot of Western music, they are they do this Grahabedam concept in almost all their compositions. So they are not bound by the single raga piece. So it goes to different scales. While because Grahabedam essentially is showing another scale within a scale. So ஒரு ராகத்துக்குள்ள உள்ள இன்னொரு ராகம் இருக்கு. So it's for some people it might be a little off-putting because they are moving with you closely in Keeravani or Karahara Priya. Suddenly you take them to another ragam within Keeravani, they're confused. They don't know which one to appreciate, whether they have to appreciate that Keeravani or this new raga. And then you come back again. So, but most of the youngsters I've found in my experience, they find it fascinating. They really enjoy. But the moment they start enjoying, you should not lose your state of balance. You should just give them a little sample and come out of it as soon as possible. And I found some singers doing multiple Grahabedams. For example, Todi Kalyani Rishabhatla, Gandharatla, Nishadatla, there are like ample scope for Grahabedam. So that actually I don't prefer that much. So you choose one ragam and show that there are other ragams possible. Maybe give a sample of one ragam. But speaking of which, there are Grahabeda compositions. So you can choose those compositions where the composer has dedicated one charanam for a Grahabedam ragam, the other charanam for another Grahabeda ragam. So those songs are really, I would welcome them because they serve the purpose of educating the audience in matters like Grahabedam.
Is there an example of a composition?
I usually sing the song of Tanjavur Kalyanaraman sir, Kandanin Azhagil Bhaktar Mayakkam appadinu Sindhu Bhairivil ஆரம்பிக்கும். Kandanin Azhagil Bhaktar Mayakkam அப்படி ஆரம்பிக்கும். And Anupallavi it goes செந்தமிழ் மொழியே கந்தவேதம். அந்த கால நின்னுண்டு from that guy in Sindhu Bhairavi he'll go to Tilang. Gamapani Nisaga Sapa Maga come back to Sindhu Bhairavi, and the charanam he uses the same ga again to go to Behar. Na 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 Nisaga ma pa ma pa ma da pa ma ga ma ga Gamapani Nisa ni pa ma re ma ga re sa ga re sa Kandanin Azhagil. The Mari he uses these songs. Lalgudi Mama has done one in starting in Suddha Saveri and going to all different pentatonic ragas within Suddha Saveri. So there are many such ragas, ragamadikas.
So thanks. Actually, there was a question on the audience from a youngster here. So what do you mean by, your audience? So, and I think you touched on that already in terms
What
of
do you mean by my audience? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So whether they are like by age group or by, their musical preferences.
That background, it depends for the background of the audience, the language that they predominantly speak, the age group, of course. Like if I go to a school, if I'm singing to a bunch of school students, in Chennai, it will be different. In school in, as I said, in Uttarakhand, it will be different. In Maharashtra, for example, when I went for another Stickmaker concert, I chose a Pallavi line that was more of, I actually called up one of my friends and asked him to give me a Marathi proverb. And he gave me a nice Marathi proverb, which we set as a Pallavi and sang. And the students were able to enjoy because they don't speak the language of music, but they do speak Marathi language. If they know that the Carnatic music is capable of speaking the language that they know, they come into the music form. So it depends on the age, the background of the audience, and the language that they speak. Yeah.
Great. So that was a question from Dhriti, one of the youngsters here in Houston. We can wrap with a question on Tilana. So, do you always present a Tilana at the end of your concert? And do you also prepare more than one in case people are asking you from audience choices? So,
yeah, definitely. I would like to include Tilanas as much as possible in my concert. But there are, again, as I said, scenarios where we are not able to accommodate a Tilana. Thirupugal Padita, we'll go to a Mangalam, depending on the time. Because all these things are concert formats, but they are not rigid structures. You can always play along with these structures. Of course, it's possible that you don't satisfy every member in the audience. In a Tilana Panna Tirupukal Liyamba, Tirupukal Panna Padam Pad Liyamba. So it goes on and on. So it's about striking a balance with the audience, and you try to satisfy. You hope to satisfy them. That's all. I don't write down to sing this particular Tilana unless it's a very special Tilana or a Tilana that I learned recently that I really want to sing. And the Madrinda, I make it a point to sing that Tilana. But otherwise, whatever comes to my mind in that portion of the concert, if I feel like singing a fast Kamas Tilana of Patnam Subramanya here, or if I want to sing a very rare Lakshmi Santalam of Tilana by Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar and Kapi. It's a very traditional Tilana. It matters, it depends on, again, where I'm singing and if I want to present something rare. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you can wrap with a couple of Kapi lines and we can conclude the session for us.
Sure. Let me sing this Tilana again by Tanjavur Kalyan Raman, whom I'm a big fan of, a huge fan of. So this is a Tilana he has composed, not very popular. And, I should thank my friend Sanjeev, who's going to play the violin in our concert also, for introducing me to this genius as a composer. This is in Chatusra Jampatalam. I'll sing from the Charanam and we can end this lecture demonstration. ദിത്തളാങ്കുതോമെന മത്തളത്തുടൻ ചിത്സഭൈതനിലെ ദിത്തളാങ്കുതോമെന മത്തളത്തുടൻ ചിത്സഭൈതനിലെ எத்திசை மகிழானந்த தாண்டவம் ஆடி மகிழும் சிவனே சத்திச்சிதானந்தமாக உத்தமர் மனத்தில் நிற்பவனே நித்தமுனை பக்தியுடன் துதித்து முக்தி பெற வைக்கும் பெருமானே நித்தமுனை பக்தியுடன் துதித்து முக்தி பெற வைக்கும் பெருமானே தகடதகதீம் தகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதிகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதிகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தரிகிடதாக்கிடதகதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தகதிகதாக்கிடதகதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதீம் தரிகிடதித்தித்தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதோம் தித்தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதோம் தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதகதத்தித்தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதோம் தித்தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதோம் தலாங்கு தரிகிடதகதினுதகதித்தில்லான தகத்தில்லான தகஜனுதீம் தகிட்ட 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 தித்தில்லான தகத்தில்லான தகஜனுதீம் தரிகிடதக 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 தீம் தீம் தரிகிடதக 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 தீம் தீம் தரிகிடதக 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 தீம். Just a sample of.
Thank you so much, and that was just a really great finale for this lecture demonstration.
Thank you so much for having me as the first event of your fall virtual festival. I'm really honored, and I really wish everyone a very safe future, and I look forward to meeting you all very soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and then thanks to our audience for joining us today on this kickoff as we pivoted to the virtual platform. Like we said, we are having a Yuvakala Utsav starting October 1st, and on 16th we'll have Ramakrishnan Murthy's concert, and Sri Gurucharan will be back in November, just after Diwali day actually. I realized that, so please tune in. And then in December we'll have Ranjani and Gayatri, the duo, to be presenting us. And again, thank you, Sri Sikal Gurucharan, and thank you to all the audience, and thanks to our board members for making all of this possible as well. With that, we will see you soon, beginning October 1st again, to continue our fall festival. Thank you.